Did you grow up in Lancaster City?
I did. I moved to Lancaster in 1984. I was 5 years old. My grandfather, Francisco Pagan, opened up the very first Spanish restaurant in Lancaster in the late 70s, early 80s. So to get away from New York City, where I was born, the Bronx, which was pretty bad back then, my mom, who is my grandfather's daughter, decided to relocate to Lancaster, PA.
Is that restaurant still around today?
No, he's retired. The restaurant's actually still there, but he sold it.
Okay. What was the name of the restaurant?
El Deportivo.
Where was that at?
It was on King and Plum.
Okay.
And it's still there. The Dominicans own it now. His very first restaurant was on East End Avenue and Marshall, right across from Garden Court.
Okay.
That's a laundromat now.
All right.
Yeah, so.
So how'd you like growing up in Lancaster?
I loved it. I loved it. It was so different from New York City. I can remember the first day we came here and we're moving in and I looked around and I heard crickets. And I was like, what's that? They're like, it's crickets. Like, oh, we have rats and roaches in New York. And so, and then my mom said something that I'll never forget it. She said, go and play. I said, what do you mean go and play? She said, go ahead, go play. There's kids all over the place. Go and play. Now in New York City, we stood in front of the building if we were allowed out, and that was it. Stay in front of the building. Don't go down the street. Don't go around the corner. And I can remember one time I went around the corner, and I'll never forget it. I went into the store with my uncle to get some, probably candy or something, and there was a shootout. And my mom went crazy, and I never went around the corner again. So to be able to go out and be somewhere where I can play freely was amazing to me.
So how old were you when you moved?
Like 5 or 6.
Okay.
Yep.
So you still have that
First
memory,
grade.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you're going through school. Everything's going well.
Everything's going well. I actually was a very good kid growing up. 4th grade, they started this program called Project Forward Leap. I was the first group to go through that program. It was a college prep program that you went to every summer for 5 weeks. And I did that from 4th grade all the way to 9th.
Okay.
So every summer I was at Millersville University learning the stuff that I was going to get the following year in school.
Okay. So you had your first taste of university life there too.
I did.
But something happened in between.
Yeah, but when I was 12, 13 years old, see, I didn't have any brothers. I have brothers, but they're from my biological father. We didn't grow up together. My mom has 7 brothers, my uncles, and they were all kind of like, they were street dudes in some aspect, some way, either using drugs, selling drugs, or just like hustlers. And these were my role models growing up.
Okay.
So by the time I was 12 or 13, I started experimenting with drugs, smoking weed. By the time I was 15, going on 16, I started selling weed to support my habit. And I've always been the type where I couldn't just be, even to this day, I don't like being average or, you know what I mean? So I kept growing as a drug dealer.
You upped your game.
Yeah, basically treated it like a business and always been an entrepreneur at heart. And eventually, by the time I was 18, I thought I was Scarface or something. They used to call me the one-stop shop. Yeah. Yeah, you can get anything. If I could make a profit off of it, I was snatching it up. Heroin, coke, crack, pills. Even at one point selling guns. I would buy guns in Lancaster, take them to New York, sell them to guys in New York, use that money to buy drugs in New York and come back with the drugs.
And just all the time turning profit.
All the time turning profit. So, but I was still getting good grades in school, still playing sports. From Project Forward Leap, I went to Upper Bound, another program. That took me to my senior year. Then I got a full scholarship to Millersville University. All I had to pay for was books.
Wow.
All the time, making thousands of dollars a week off of drugs.
Wow.
So then I get to college. Woo! It's a whole new dynamic in college. So what happened was a lot of my friends were getting caught selling like coke and crack, and they were getting like 10 years, 15 years, especially if they got caught with a gun. So I said, man, I got to switch things up. and there was a new drug on the scene. It was called ecstasy. So I switched that. I left everything alone, started selling pills, and decided to take what was supposed to be a semester off from school to open up a business, and it was a club.
Okay.
So I was 20 years old, wasn't even old enough to drink yet, and I owned a club, ended up opening another club within 2 months. So I had an after hours and a regular club. The after hours was called the Oz. That was right behind the Wendy's on Harrisburg Pike. And then I had the Jelly Bean. It was the now they knocked it down. It was a hotel right off of Lidditz Pike. And then one day I'm sitting in the club, you know, I'm thinking I'm on top of the world, probably selling 1,500 to 2,000 pills a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there in VIP, and all of a sudden, boom,
Yeah.
doors get kicked in and windows get broken out, and all these guys in all black with masks on and big guns come rushing into the club. Where's Johnny Vega? Where's Johnny Vega? I'm sitting in VIP. The club was long and narrow, so it seemed like a movie to me. It was probably like 3 o'clock in the morning, so I was just out of my mind, drunk, and you know. So I see them coming towards me, and my security picks me up, takes me through the back door, and throws me in the back of a car and takes off. So in a blink of an eye, I went from, you know, college student, you know, doing well, to on the run from the federal government.
Wow.
So was this the FBI?
This was the FBI, yeah.
Okay. So how did they catch wind of what you were doing?
Basically, I was real. Everybody knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, I just felt that I would never get caught. I was real flamboyant. I mean, we would have 200, 300 people in the club, you know, Friday, Saturday. So everybody in town knew who Johnny was and what Johnny Vega did. But now thinking back, it was only a matter of time before something was going to happen. But I didn't know it was just going to happen on that level. Because they went, after I got away, which pissed them off, they went to my mom's house, my grandmother's house, my apartment,
Hitting all your spots.
hitting all, even stash houses that I had, they were kicking in the door. But I had no idea what they wanted me for. I had no idea what the charges were, and I was on the run. They called my mom, told my mom, tell me to turn myself in, and I was like, they're gonna have to come get me. They're gonna have to come get me. So I was on the run for 6 months.
Okay.
And got away from them one more time after that, which really, this is the reason why I didn't get bail. When I remember when I was getting sentenced, the judge said, my lawyer asked for bail, and the judge said, no, Mr. Vega has rabbit in his blood. He likes to run. The second time I got away, I'm sitting in a house. This is like 3 months into me being on the run. I'm waiting on, I can say whatever, right? I'm waiting on 5 pounds of weed. And I'm sitting in the house. And at the time in Lancaster, they had what they called the yellow shirts. They were like drug task force. Okay. All they did was drive around town in their yellow shirts and black pants and jump out on people that were hanging out on the block, or people that, back then there was a lot of street drug dealers going on, like sitting on the block selling drugs all day. Right. They don't really do that anymore, but they were parked in front of the house. And the girl that owned the house said, hey, Johnny, there's cops parked in front of the house. So I look out the window, another cop car pulls up, another cop car pulls up, another cop car pulls up. I'm like, oh man, it's about to go down. So I called the guy that was bringing the drugs to me, who was actually setting me up. So I said, look, I'll get that later. Something's going on and it seems kind of fishy. I'll grab it later. I'm leaving. He said, oh no, wait, I'm almost there. No, I'm leaving. Something's not right. So I'm at the bottom of Prince Street, right before right before you can like go right towards like Wall Bank and all that. Anyway, I'm at the bottom of Prince Street. I go out the girl's back door and cut through her backyard and end up on Beaver Street. You know how little Beaver Street is. So I'm walking up Beaver, and I see somebody at the top of the block standing on the corner, and he starts walking towards me. So I walk across the street, he walks across the street. I walk across the street, he walks across. So we're doing this little like dance with each other as we're walking towards each other. So I'm debating in the back of my mind, should I run? Or should I get this over with? Because I'm on the run. I'm kind of tired of being on the run. And it was a cop. And he walks right up to me. He puts his hand on my chest. And he says, "What's your name?" And I'm just looking at him like, it's over. I'm about to go to jail. "What's your name?" He asked me one more time, "What's your name?" And I said, "Marcus Tirado." Which was one of my closest friends.
Oh,
he was a goody two-shoe. He didn't get in any trouble. I knew his address and everything.
Does he know you did this?
Yeah, I did. We're friends to this day. Yeah. And he's like, "If you would have got me in trouble," I said, "Man, you never did anything bad." So he says, "Marcus Tirado." I said, "Yeah, Marcus Tirado." So he says, "Well, sit down." So he sits me down on the curb. A regular car pulls up, and this guy in plain clothes comes out the car, and he says, "Is this the guy we're looking for?" And he goes, "I don't know." He said his name is Marcus Tirado, and the name came back good. He said, "Well, the guy we're looking for has a tattoo on his right arm of a Grim Reaper." I don't know if you can see it. I covered it up. It's a Grim Reaper with a Puerto Rican flag wrapped around him. So I had a Nautica dress shirt on, a Nautica hat, long sleeve. At that time, I didn't have any of these tattoos, just this one. So he says, "Roll up your sleeves and let me see if you have tattoos." All right. I roll up my sleeves to my elbows. I said, "Look, I don't have any tattoos." Rolled my sleeves back down. Sat there. All of a sudden I said, "Man, this is bullshit. I'm going to get my lawyer. I'm going to sue you guys. This is crazy." Sat there. A couple seconds rolled by. And the regular cop, which he kicked himself in the ass after this, said, "Get up and beat it." What? So I get up, start walking up the street. As soon as they were out of sight, what do?
Took off.
Like a track star, like Usain Bolt. Like I was just gunning it. I end up on Queen, see my friend smoking a cigarette on his porch. "Can I come in your house?" "Yeah, go ahead." I'm sweating. He comes running in the house. He says, "Did you shoot somebody?" I said, "No, why?" He said, "They got all of Queen Street, Prince Street, locked down from corner to corner, and they're walking around with your pictures saying, 'Have you seen this guy?'" This is seconds after they let me go. I'm like, what the heck? Remember, keep in mind, I don't know what my charges are. I don't know why they're coming after me so hard. And I'm like, man. And I thought, because I got shot like 6 months before that in my stomach. Yeah, my daughter says I have 2 belly buttons. If you can see the hole. Oh, yeah. So the guy thought it was retaliation for what happened to me. I said, "Nah, I don't know what's going on. They're like coming after me like I really like murdered somebody or something." So I got away from him again. 3 months go by, I'm in York. I leave Lancaster, go move to York, have an apartment in York. So one day this guy that owed me some money comes over, pays me the money. He says he wants 50 more pills. I give him 50 more pills. He leaves. And it was a Friday. I said, "I want to go get a haircut. I'm feeling good. I'm going to go buy a new outfit. I'm going out tonight." So it's Friday. So we're driving to the barbershop. I'm in the back seat. 2 guys are driving. And there's a green van behind us. So the guy that's driving, he's like, "Man, bro, I think this van's following us." So I didn't know if it was the cops or somebody trying to rob us. So I said, "Make a left." So he made a left. Van was right behind us. I said, "Cut up this alleyway." Van's right behind us. I'm like, oh, man. So we get to a stop sign, and the van pulls up in front of us like this, and all these cops jump out the van. get out the car, get out the car. My friend throws it in reverse, spins out, and takes off. Cops can't keep up on foot, so they jump back in the van. But unlike the first 2 times, about 10 cop cars ended up converging on us on Queen Street in York. And that was it. He said, put your hands out the window, put my hands out the window. And when he opened the door and they let me out, I'll never forget it. The cop came right up to me. He said, Mr. Vega, your life's never going to be the same after today.
Oh, shit.
And from that day on, I didn't see the streets for 8 years.
Wow.
So what were the charges?
So, I'm in York County prison for 11 months. No charges.
What?
My lawyer says they have 1 more month to hold you or they have to let you go because they haven't charged you with anything. So they basically made me sweat for 11 months. I'm laying in my bunk and I hear Vega mail. I get mail all the time. I look at it. I open it up. It says United States government versus Johnny Vega. Not state, not county. United States government versus Johnny Vega. And then I read it. It said my charges, conspiracy to distribute 10,000 ecstasy pills. I said, 10,000 ecstasy pills? Where'd they get this number from? So I called my lawyer. My lawyer says, I got the same letter. I'm coming up to see you right now to explain what's going on. We need to come up with a game plan. I said, all right. So he comes up, he sees me, we sit, and I've known my lawyer before he was a lawyer. So he's also a good friend of mine. So he keeps it, totally real with me. Like he don't cut any corners. So I said, where'd they get this 10,000 ecstasy, 10,000 pills from? He said, well, what happened was while you were on the run and I told you to turn yourself in, everybody that was getting caught was saying, because everybody knows I'm on the run. So let's say you're one of my buddies and you get caught with these drugs. They got caught. They're saying, oh, Johnny Vega gave me the drugs. I'm getting them from him. And this was on the course of 6 months. So on top of what they had at the beginning, it just got worse during the 6 months that I was on the run. So 10,000 ecstasy pills, conspiracy, and then, so I said, what's my options? He said, well, I can have you out by tomorrow. All right, so what's up? He said, you got to give up everybody. I said, oh. Now to backtrack a little bit, my dad, I was never really in the Latin Kings, but since my dad was one of the top Latin Kings in the country, my biological father, I was kind of like born into it. So my security was Latin Kings, like I always kept them around me, but I always managed to kind of like stay on the boundaries of being in the gang. But since I was part of the gang and they were always around me, I got my drugs and stuff off my father and my uncles. Remember, my uncles were the hustlers, the drug dealers. So I said, my mom would kill me if I tell her my uncles and my father. And then my father, who's doing 4 life sentences right now in Colorado, who's a stone cold killer. I don't care if I'm his son or not. If I'd have told him, it would have got ugly. And not only was I worried about my own safety, but, I had my mom out there, grandma, he knew where everybody. Like, it would have just been real ugly if I would have turned evidence on my family. So I said, that's not an option. What's my other options? And I'll never forget, he said, all right, tough guy, like, you got to do what's best for you. And I said, no, you just don't understand. Like, I'm not looking at life, so I'm not going to do that. Like, it's just not an option. And he said, all right, so what are my other options? He said, well, we could go to trial, but the federal government has a 98.5 conviction rate. So what does that mean? We're going to lose. I was locked up with guys that were in the mafia. I was locked up with guys that had Fortune 500 companies, and they were right there with me in jail. So it doesn't matter how much money you have, who you know, what connections you have. If the government's coming after you, they're coming after you for a reason, and they're going to get you. So I said, well, if we blow trial, how much time am I looking at? He said 25 years. 25 years? I've never been in trouble in my life. Like, this is the first time I've ever been arrested. No, this is a new drug. They're trying to make an example out of you. And yeah, 25 years. I said, sheesh. I would be getting, and this, every time I talk about it, it blows my mind because I'd be coming home right now.
Really?
If I'd have did the 25.
Wow.
Because that was in 2000. I did 8.
Yeah, so how'd they knock it down to 8?
No, well, that was they gave me a plea agreement. That was my third option.
Oh, okay.
So I said, what's my third option? He said 100 months. I said 100 months. He said, look, you're 21 going on 22. Mind you, I got locked up when I was 20, but the 11 months. Now I'm 21.
Yeah.
I'll have you home by the time you're 30. And I'm like, man, that's easy for you to say. That's like, this is prime time, my 20s. Like, you're about to take my 20s from me. He said, those are the options. He said, look, I'll give you a couple days to think about it. I work for you, you pay me. Whatever you want to do, we'll do. But I suggest that you either give these guys up or take the 100 months. Mm-hmm. So I said, all right, I'll think about it, and I'll call you back in a couple days. So I go back to my cell, and what do? I cried like a baby. Like cried, like boogers coming out your nose. And you ever cry so bad you can't even talk? Like,
yeah.
Like you ever get a kid where you're like, what's wrong? They're like, like they can't.
Yeah.
I couldn't even talk. Like, and my bunkie. Now this is before I changed like to the nice guy you know now. So my bunkie was like, it's gonna be all right. You know, it's gonna be all right. I said, shut the fuck up, pussy. It's not gonna be all right. Like, I'm about to do 9 years in jail. He's like, it's not gonna be all right. So shut the fuck up. Like, and he just was like. So I continued to cry after my little tough experience.
Yeah.
And then I began to pray, and I was just like, man, all the choices that I made up to that point, because you make choices in your life. Some you have to reap, deal with the consequences of those choices. Sometimes you get away with them. I had gotten away with so much in my life up to that point, but now I had my back up against the wall, and I had to face the consequences for the choices that I made in my life. So I took a deep breath, I prayed a little bit, and I said, all right, I got to do these next 8 years. There's no way around it. So I prayed, and I made a deal with God. And I said, God, if you get me through these next 8 years, not only will I serve you for the rest of my life, it says in the Bible to give yourself as a living sacrifice to God. That's what I did that day. I gave myself as a living sacrifice to God. I said, if you get me through this, I'm yours. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, if you get me through this, when I get home, I'll make sure that these young people don't make the same mistakes that I made. So I called my lawyer the next day and I said, let's rock. I'm ready. He said, really? 100 months? I said, yeah, I'm gonna just do my time. I said, all right. So we came, signed the paperwork. I ended up going to Harrisburg from York to get sentenced. And then from there, I was on transit. I went to Oklahoma, put me on Conair. Yeah, I was shackled from ankles, hands. I had a paper jumpsuit with nothing on underneath. And they flew me to Oklahoma. From Oklahoma, I went to Atlanta. From Atlanta, I went to New Jersey. And then finally, after New Jersey, I was in Allenwood for like 5.5 years.
So you turned all this negative experience into something positive now.
Yes. So I got my associate's degree in jail.
Okay.
In what?
In business.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So got my degree in jail, got a whole bunch of certificates, and just worked on myself physically, mentally, and spiritually. And then when I came home, immediately I opened up a business with my mom. It was a restaurant on Plum Street. So I'm home now. I'm free, sitting in the restaurant, enjoying life. Yes, I'm home. I made it. And
What year was this?
this was 2008.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been
So
home.
not too long ago.
No, not too long ago. All these young people were coming in the restaurant, buying food. You know, sometimes they would come in with their parents. Their parents would be like, that's Johnny Vega, you know, say hello to him. And even some of the 14, 15-year-olds, they would come up to me, hey, OG, I heard you used to get that money. I want to get money like you did. And I'm like, oh, like, slow down, buddy. Like, I don't do that no more. I used to be funny and pat them down. Like, I would pat them down. I would make sure you're not working with the cops. Like, it's crazy out here. And they would laugh. But then this little voice in my head one day, I heard it, and it said, remember your promise. As I'm watching these young people coming in and out of my restaurant. Remember your promise. And I was like, dang, you're right. I got to get to it. So immediately I got involved with my church, with like the youth ministry. We built that up from like 10 kids to like, I think it was like 150 when I decided to step down.
What church was it?
In the Light Ministries.
Okay.
So, and then from there I got a job with this place called Teen Haven.
Yeah.
I was a boys program director there. Ran all their programming there for like 3 years. So little by little I was getting a taste of not only working with kids, but also how nonprofits worked.
Okay.
So after Teen Haven, I got a job with SACA, running a program called BART, Becoming a Responsible Teen. Did that for a couple years, and then I finally started my own nonprofit called Fight for Lancaster, which basically was a transitional program for people coming out of jail, and then also mentoring for young people.
Okay.
And the response we got from the city of Lancaster when we started that was just overwhelming. Like, it was needed. So we ran with that for a couple years, and then I linked up with a guy by the name of Dr. Nashawn Walker. He's from Harrisburg, and we started a program called Hood Rise, where we set up mentoring programs and curriculum in the schools in Harrisburg. So now we have Hood Rise in all the schools in Harrisburg. Right now I'm working on the same thing in York, where we're going to be in all the schools in York next year. And then I had the pleasure of working with TJ Griffin, who we've known each other since like 7th grade. We linked up, and now we're doing programs also together. And then I linked up with a great man also, Ron James, who has the Choice Foundation, and that's who we do the motivational speaking through. Ron sets up the motivational speaking engagements across the country.
That's cool. So put yourself back in that restaurant with these little kids coming in, seeing you, and having that thoughts about you. What are you going to say to them to tell them to, no, don't go chasing the paper. Don't go leading this life that I did. What are you going to tell them?
I tell them that I was them 28, 25 years ago. And what happened with me was we go through these things in our cultures where we listen to music, where we look up to the wrong role models, and these kids are brainwashed into thinking, you know, it's cool to sell drugs, it's cool. Like, they actually promote being an addict now. Like drinking, what is it, the cough syrup, and, you know, taking all these drugs. And what I try to instill in them, that it's okay not to use drugs. You can be the cool guy and not, you know, be a part of that lifestyle, because that lifestyle is only going to lead you to either jail or an early death. So that's pretty much what
One word I haven't heard you drop is system.
Right.
And sometimes I hear a lot of people that are quick to blame the system and not look inward at their own faults.
The system is what it is. The system hasn't changed since the 60s. I mean, and it probably won't change. So it's upon ourselves to make the change within ourselves, because, like I said, the system is what it is. The trick is to stay out of the system. And what I teach them is I try to nip it in the bud before they get to the point where there's no return, where they get the felony, or they get, you know, the charges, or they're in the juvenile facility, or they're even in jail. So my biggest thing is reaching them before they get to that point and make sure they never get to that point.
One thing I was curious about when you headed to Millersville for the first time, young, going to college.
Yes.
First time. What was your major then? What were your
English.
plans?
English. English.
Nice,
I was an English major and I minored in coaching. So the first original plan was to teach at McCaskey and coach basketball.
Okay.
That was my goal. But all I did was party in college.
Yeah.
I don't even remember half of it.
But is that English teacher there still inside?
It is.
you?
I still love to write. I still love to teach. I've even had opportunities to, like I said, set up curriculums in schools where I'm teaching.
Okay.
So it happened anyway. It was just delayed because of the choices that I made.
Do you ever run into some kids and be like, oh man, I really got to get to this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Get to this girl.
Wherever I go, one of the first things I tell the faculty is I tell them to send me the worst of the worst. I want the worst kids, like the kids that y'all gave up on, the kids that are getting suspended, the kids that are getting straight Fs. And I will guarantee you that a good percentage of them, not all of them, can't reach them all, but a good percentage of them, I could turn it around. Yeah, and we have, quantitative information where we have it recorded where these kids went from Fs to honor roll.
So what's your plan going forward?
To continue to set up these mentoring programs, hopefully nationally soon, to continue to do the motivational speaking around the country. And I also own businesses, and that's what college isn't for everybody. And that's one of the things I tell the kids, like, you have so many other options other than college, even just being an entrepreneur and finding something that you're good at and that you love and turn it into a business. And that's one of the things we stress with the kids also.
Cool. Best place you got to be a motivational speaker at?
So far, Washington State. I went to Washington State twice so far, and it's just overwhelming how I have kids that have sent me pictures of little things that I've said, and they'll put it on their wristbands, and they'll go out and win a state championship in, track.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they'll send me a picture of the wristband, like, this is what motivated me to win. I'm like, oh. Oh man. And I've been doing this for almost 10 years. So even last night at the La Academia event where I was a keynote speaker, there were kids there that went to school when I was the gym teacher, and now they're walking around with like their child, and I'm married, but a couple of them came up to me and they were like, Mr. Vega, like, thank you. I'm like, for what? They're like, for the things you said to us, you motivated me to get through school. You motivated me to not give up. And they're adults now. They're like 21, 22 years old. So I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, it is so true. Like, I tell the kids, you reap what you sow. Whatever you put out is what you're going to get back. That's just universal law. So I tell them all the time, I don't care what you did yesterday, last week, what choices you made. Today is the first day that you can start making good choices and planting positive seeds so that later on down the road you can reap positive things. See, I did that 8 years because of all the seeds that I planted before that, and finally it caught up to me and I had to reap what I sowed. I understand that there are certain things you need to do or you need to implement to get to these kids, and one of the things is music. I mean, it's just a given. Like, music is so powerful. So my big thing is reprogramming them, because a lot of the music they're listening to is has programmed them to think a certain way, act a certain way. So what I do is, and it's just a hobby really, is I'll come up with a vision for a song. Like, oh, let's do a song on, for example, bullying, which is actually the next project we're working on. And I'll get, I know all these different artists, and I'll reach out to them and I say, hey, you guys want to do a positive song about bullying? Yeah, let's do it. So we'll all get together. I'll get the producer, the studio, everything, bring it all together, and we'll make the song. Now, the song that we're working on now, it happened purely by accident. everyone involved with the song, from the producer to Michael Jameson, who plays the violin on the beat, me, TJ, everyone that came and kind of had a hand in the song, we all work with kids on some different level. We'll either have a program or whatever. So we decided, let's do a documentary, not only on the song, but the people involved with the song.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
And what they're doing. So I have a friend that he works for Netflix. He said, "Yo, just put it all together, send it to me, and I'll see what Netflix says." So the documentary is going to be, the song is called "Message in a Bottle," and the documentary is going to be called "Message in a Bottle," because basically what we're trying to do is send a message to the youth that, you know, there's a better way of life. Like, we're trying to help them.
When's that looking at completion?
Probably the next month or so.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're pushing. We already have the song done, so now we're doing the interviews with the different people that are involved with the documentary, and then we're doing footage on what they do. Like, right, I'm actually going to Harrisburg after this to interview Mike, the violinist, and he has a concert where he's trying to raise money for his program.
Oh, very cool.
Mm-hmm. He teaches kids how to play string instruments. When I first started, I'm a Christian, and a lot of people, when I put out music, and some people get upset, some people, I don't really care, but they get upset because it's not per se glorifying God. But what all the music's clean, no cursing, and what I don't do is promote violence, gangs, drugs, you know, belittling women, any of the negatives. I've taken all the negative stuff out of the music.
Okay.
And I stick with the positive stuff. But at the same time, I try to put out music that's hot, like that I know people are gonna listen to and dance to, and once they listen to the lyrics, it'll hopefully change how they think.
You want to hear that bumping in the car going?
Yeah, I listen to it all the time, full volume. Yeah, it's the best place to listen to music, your car.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the whole key with the music, just trying to reverse how kids think, even adults. I mean, I was a product of Jay-Z, and I'll never forget being in the club and listening to Hustler Baby. I'm a hustler, baby.
Yeah.
I just want you to know. That was me. You couldn't tell me any different.
Yeah, I grew up on like Dre and stuff too,
Yeah.
but people don't realize, you know, that guy's got a life, he's got a wife, kids,
Right.
he's got a house, a mortgage,
That's
all that
another
other
thing I
stuff.
tell these
They don't
kids.
see all that. You're not rapping about your mortgage and your electric bill.
And half of the stuff, probably more than half of the stuff they rap about and sing about, they're not living that lifestyle or ever did. They're just telling a story. They're just telling a story probably about somebody like me. Yeah. So that's the whole music thing. I'm into music, fashion. I got my own clothing line called Red Lamb.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I try to hit them with all the tools that got them to the point where they're messing up. I use the same tools to reverse it.
So I know you're not done, but do you feel like you fulfilled that promise that you made?
No, I think this is a lifelong thing. Yeah, I love it.